There would be many shots tonight, but only one the world would remember. Chief Petty Officer Mara Hale lay pressed against the frost-bitten spine of Zarakh Ridge, Barrett M95 locked to her shoulder. Ice shimmered on the rifle's frame. Her breath fogged the scope, then disappeared into the thin mountain air. 2,300 meters across the valley, Kayla compound lay trapped between rock and dust. Inside, 12 operators from Naval Special Warfare Recon Det 7. Low on ammo, minutes from being overrun. Air support is still 20 minutes out, Lieutenant Commander Alex Ridley said. Calm voice, tight edges. Above them, a Reaper drone circled, sensors hot, weapons cold, too close to friendlies. Beyond the far ridge, an Apache gunship waited. Hellfire's armed, but sheer granite killed its line of fire. No airstrike, no extraction. Beside her, Petty Officer Jonah Cruz adjusted his spotting scope. Wind 5 knots from the west, thin air, less drag, flatter trajectory. Mara said nothing. She wiped frost from her optic. In her ammo box, a worn photograph. Her grandfather, Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Hale, Marine sniper. Different war, same eyes. Down in the valley, enemy fighters locked an 82mm mortar into place. First ranging round, 500 meters short. Second, 300. The next would land inside the compound. Ridley came back on comms, quieter. Do not engage unless you're certain. At this range, you don't get a second chance. She keyed her mic. Sir, requesting permission to do what air support can't. Only static. No denial, no confirmation. Just wind, breathing, distance. Then, through her scope, she saw it. A mortar shell sliding into the tube. And in that one still heartbeat, she understood there might be 5 shots tonight. But only one history would carry. The smell of cold hay and gun oil always took her back to Wyoming. Before Zarakh Ridge, before the Barrett and the silence after a trigger pull, there was a wind-scoured ranch outside Cody. An empty barn, frosted fence lines, and Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Hale, Marine sniper, war veteran, and the man who taught her how to see. She was 8 when he handed her a weathered Winchester Model 70. Don't just fire, he said. Read, wind, distance, time. Steel tells the truth, people don't. While other kids learned multiplication tables, Mara counted fence posts to judge range. Marcus showed her how mirage bends light, how a heartbeat can push a bullet an inch off at 1,000 yards, and how sometimes the hardest part of a shot was waiting. He wasn't training a soldier. He was building an eye. Years later, she left Wyoming to study mathematics. Equations came easy. Then came the Navy. People said BUD-S, the brutal SEAL selection course, wasn't for quiet girls from landlocked towns. She didn't argue. She just showed up. Buds broke bones and stronger men. She stayed. SQT, SEAL qualification training, cold. Water and colder nights. She stayed. Then Special Operations Sniper School, high-angle shots, ballistic computers, thin-air calculations. She didn't miss. 2 weeks before she earned her trident, the SEAL insignia, Marcus died. He never saw the uniform, but he left her 3 things. A folded map of an unnamed ridge in Central Asia, his tarnished silver star, and 6 handwritten words, save the shot for when it matters. Now, lying on that exact ridge, those words pressed against her chest plate like a second pulse. Jonah whispered wind speed beside her. She barely heard. Because in the quiet between breaths, Marcus's voice returned. Steady. Absolute. Math gets the bullet there. Heart decides if you send it. The mortar didn't care about courage. It only cared how fast it could erase 12 men inside Kala compound. Through her scope, Mara watched the crew finish their setup. Baseplate locked, tube aligned, every motion cold and practiced. First ranging round, 500 meters short. Second, 300. The third would land inside the walls. Jonah Cruz murmured into comms. They're walking it in, bearing 150 north. Above them, the MQ-9 Reaper tracked every heat signature but couldn't fire. The Apache sat behind the far ridge, Hellfires armed, line of fire blocked. Air support still 20 minutes out. Then Ridley's voice cut through static. FOB Meridian just approved artillery. Impact in 3 minutes. Hale, can you stop them before it hits? Mara's world narrowed. Range, 2,300 meters. Barrett M95, match grade 50 BMG. Ballistic computer synced to dope. Data on previous engagements. Thin air meant less drag, flatter trajectory, but no room for error. I can, she said, a beat of silence. Then Ridley, quieter. You're cleared hot. 1 shot, make it count. Wind, breath, trigger. The Barrett cracked like thunder. Recoil slammed her shoulder. 3.1 seconds of silence. Impact. Red sprayed across frozen dirt. The mortar gunner dropped before the sound of her shot reached the valley. Target down, Mara said. Next. But the fight didn't stop. One insurgent lunged, not to aim, but to fire blind. 1 shell into the sky could kill everyone on the ridge or inside the compound. Jonah's voice went thin. He's gonna send it blind. Mara recentered her scope. She was no longer just a sniper. She was the last barrier between that mortar and 12 funerals. Wind shifted. Her finger tightened. She didn't wait for another order. The first body hadn't even hit the ground before everything erupted. Through her scope, Mara saw discipline collapse into chaos. 1 fighter scrambled to the fallen gunner. Another swept his rifle uselessly across the ridge. The youngest didn't run. He wrenched the mortar higher, ready to fire blind. He didn't need accuracy, just luck and gravity. They're gonna drop it on us, Jonah muttered. Breath, fogging glass. Mara didn't answer. She moved by muscle memory. Bolt, breathe, read mirage, settle, 8 to 10 seconds per shot, 3.1 seconds of flight time, enough to outpace panic. She fired. Barrett recoil rocked her shoulder. 3.1 seconds. Impact. Assistant gunner down. The mortar stayed silent. Ridley's voice snapped through comms. Hale, Reaper confirms 6 hostiles moving through the ravine. Enemy QRF. 60 seconds to your flank. If they crest, you're boxed. Fall back. Now! Mara stayed prone. Not out of defiance, but because the last man near the mortar was dragging a live round toward it. Ridley exhaled through static. You bought us seconds. Hold your position. 2 more shots, then you move. I'll carry the responsibility. That was all she needed. Shot 3. Thunder. 3.1 seconds. Impact. Round carrier down. Shell tumbling harmlessly. Jonah's whisper counted down like a metronome of doom. 40 seconds. 30. Shot 4. Heartbeat tugged the reticle. She corrected, exhaled, fired. 3.1 seconds. Another hostile fell. Only 1 remained. He didn't lift a rifle. He ran, full sprint, toward a black slit in the rock. The ammo cache they had marked earlier. Crates of 82mm shells, fuel cans, 1 spark, and the ridge would become a funeral pyre. Ridley again, urgent, but softer. Mortars neutralized, all teams exfil. Hale, this is an order. Mara's finger hovered over the trigger. She remembered Marcus Hale. Save the shot for when it matters, Jonah whispered. 20 seconds. She made her decision and squeezed the trigger. For a single breath, everything stopped. The last fighter was only steps from the cave, where crates of mortar rounds and fuel cans waited in the dark. 1 grenade in there, and Zarakh Ridge and Recon Det 7 would vanish in the same fireball. Orders said exfil. Instinct said finish it. Memory whispered Marcus Hale's 6 words. Save the shot for when it matters. Mara steadied. 4 shots had been calculation. This one was consequence. She exhaled, pressed the trigger. The Barrett thundered across the ridge. Recoil slammed her shoulder. 3.1 seconds of silence. Impact. The fighter collapsed inches from the cave mouth. A grenade slipped from his grip, rolled across the stone, and stopped. No explosion, just the soft metallic echo of death changing its mind. Silence swept the ridge. Not peace, but the kind left behind when fate decides to spare you. Ridley's voice came through comms, not just command anymore. Mission complete. You didn't just stop a mortar. You kept 12 men breathing. Pack it up. We're taking you home. 1 week later, Camp Meridian. No cameras, no speeches, just polished floors, muted flags, soft footsteps. Mara Hale stood at attention as a bronze star with V for Valor was pinned to her uniform. Beside it, in a glass case, rested her grandfather's tarnished silver star. Jonah stepped beside her, hands in his pockets. So, what was it? Math? Instinct? Luck? Mara looked past him, toward distant snow-covered hills. It was knowing someone needed me to pull the trigger, she said, even if they couldn't say it out loud. 2 years later, Wyoming wind rattled a weathered wooden sign. Zarakh Precision Institute, founded by Chief Petty Officer Mara Hale, U.S. Navy, retelling. Inside the converted barn, steel targets, scarred benches, young shooters learning to breathe, to wait, to choose. On the wall, 2 medals hung side by side. Beneath them, a faded note in Marcus Hale's handwriting. Courage isn't the absence of doubt. It's pulling the trigger anyway, because someone else is counting on you.